What up, family? It's your boy Khalil YL coming to you with another video, and this is just pretty much just a news update. Felt like y'all should know what's going on out here because you'll probably never hear about this. But in Jeffersontown, Kentucky, a few days ago, a two white assailants went into a Kroger and killed two black people, targeted them, and then it was later found out also that they were caught on video surveillance trying to gain access to a black church. So I think that's something that we all need to, well, especially black people, but we all need to be aware of. So here, check this out. The video is kind of choppy or whatever. I was just kind of taking in information, and I was like, well, you know what? I need to put this out here for my people. So y'all check this out. All right, take care. YL.
Reference the timely nature that Mayor Durff had pointed out in his opening remarks. The calls began to come into our department at 2:54 p.m. That was the time that we received the initial 911 call. At 2:54, simultaneously while those calls were coming in, that's when our first officers were dispatched. They were being dispatched simultaneously while the 911 calls were coming into our radio room. At 2:56, 2 minutes later, our first officers began to arrive on scene. And at 2:58, we had the suspect in custody. So within 4 minutes from start to finish, we had the shooter of this incident in our custody, and we began to, at that point, address the needs of the scene there at the Kroger store at 9080 Taylorsville Road. A multitude of various reports were received, obviously, in a short amount of time. Our radio room was inundated with calls via 911 lines, also via administrative telephone lines, via cell phone calls to individual officers. These reports were referencing locations of victims, number of shooters, possible locations of the shooters, the possible locations of where those shooters were fleeing to. So there was a lot of telephone traffic coming into the police department at that time, as well as a lot of radio traffic ongoing as the officers responded. Multiple agencies, in addition to the Jeffersontown Police, responded to assist us, including the Louisville Metro Police Department, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department, Jeffersontown Fire and EMS, Louisville Metro EMS, and our federal partners with the ATF and the FBI. Once on scene, officers engaged in multiple activities simultaneously. First and foremost, as officers arrived, as I stated earlier, within 4 minutes from the start of the incident, initial officers that arrived on the scene had located and detained and taken the suspect into custody. Also, there was another shooter on scene, which I will describe his involvement here shortly. We also located him and took him into custody at that point until we could determine his identity and his involvement in the incident down there. Also, while that was going on, we began to conduct a rapid evaluation and search of a nearly 116,000 square foot building for even potential victims that had yet to be identified, as well as witnesses and people that were in hiding that may have not been located or found a protected place to seek shelter at that point. We also had a massive undertaking of cordoning off ingress and egress to the building itself. As again, I stated, the Kroger building is a 116,000 square foot building with multiple entrances and exits for both the public and the employees. At the same time, we also had to secure the parking lot from people gaining access to that area because, again, as I'll describe here in a minute, the incident ended up out in the parking lot where a gunfight ensued. And therefore, due to that, we had a multitude of shell casings and vehicles involved in the shootout out there that we were going to ultimately have to process and take into consideration. Once the scene was secured, the suspect was in custody, we had a daunting task of identifying and interviewing a multitude of witnesses. In all, At the time that we were down there with our initial scene response, investigators interviewed over 120 witnesses. We tried to determine at that point, early on, number one, whether they were a valid witness or not. If they weren't, then we tried to release them from the scene as quickly as possible so as to not inconvenience them. If they ended up having valuable information and ended up being a good witness for us, we asked them to remain back a little bit further, and then investigators conducted a more formal interview with them. With the assistance of Louisville Metro Police Department's crime scene unit, the expansive crime scene, both inside the store and outside